Now, throughout today, I'd like you to have a think about a time in your life when you've got yourself up after a bad situation. My next guest did exactly that after a road accident in 2021. Talia Lazarus didn't walk for 10 weeks, had a number of different surgeries on her knees, and has had to relearn how to walk. And as anybody who's faced a bad situation physically will know, it's not just the physical impact, it's the mental side of it too. Well, since this ordeal, Talia has taken on the mission to hear other people's stories via her organisation, I Got Back Up. And Talia joins me now. Talia, welcome to the show. Talk me through your story.
Hiya, it's lovely to be here today. So, like you said, in August 2021, I was in a road accident. I was on an electric scooter and I hit a bus. So, I kind of say, if you're going to do something like that, got to do it in style, right? And obviously what happened was from the accident, I actually couldn't walk for 10 weeks. I wasn't allowed to walk for 10 weeks. So with regards to all of that, in September 2021, I was actually rushed in for emergency knee surgery because 60% of my cartilage was in the wrong place and the surgeon didn't know if it was still attached or not. And he said, as a 25-year-old, which I was at the time, you don't want to lose 60% of your cartilage. So I was rushed in for surgery, which I think at the time, I've had surgeries before. I've had my tonsils out and I've had my wisdom teeth out, but you never think you're going to have knee surgery, especially at the age of 25. And I remember kind of waking up and coming around in the hospital and seeing my knee bandaged up and just thinking, what is going on? But this was all around the time I still wasn't allowed to walk. So that was back in September, and it was around October time when my physio first told me that I was allowed to maybe start walking again. And I had a knee brace from my ankle to my thigh, and he hopped me off the bed and he said, come on, we can, let's give this a go. And the thing was, in my accident, the paramedics came to me, and once I was around the paramedics' shoulders, I took one step on my left leg and my ankle went one direction and my knee went another direction. And to watch your own leg buckle under your body weight, it's not something that you want to watch. So I had this terrible, terrible mental fear about my knee buckling for months, even sometimes now, interestingly enough. But when my physio first told me, you can start walking again. Let's give this a go. I hopped off the bed and I looked at him and I just thought, I can't do this. My knee's going to buckle. And he said, your knee's not going to buckle. It's, I'm telling you, it's not. And I think the craziest thing to relearn to walk, I remember I was holding both his hands and he said, go on, take your first step. And I couldn't, I didn't know whether to take my right or my left or my right. And I looked at him and I said, which leg shall I go with? And he said, whichever leg you want to go with. And I tried again and I kind of went to lift one up and I put it down. I lift another one. And I said, no, you're going to have to tell me which leg to start with, because it was this incredible fear in my head that as soon as I took that one step, I was collapsing. And he pointed out the leg to me and I took the step, and slowly, I started to take more. So that was towards the end of October. And what happened was I was always told I was going to need a second knee surgery. So I was going to need my ACL reconstructed. And that was going to be in January.
Right.
But I caught COVID. Yeah. And what I didn't know at the time is if you catch COVID and you have surgery coming up, you have to wait 7 weeks until you can reschedule it. So I kind of had to wait until February, but in a way that was one of the best things that actually happened to me, because it was a month leading up to my surgery and my physio sat me down again and he said, you are not strong enough for the second surgery.
Right.
And I remember saying to him for a few weeks, I said, but the thing is, yes, I'm having a second surgery and yes, it's going to be amazing. But, I had to go back to the gym and I had to start training. But I said to him, I have no motivation to train because I'm going to train to be, have my legs cut back open again. And he said, I understand completely. And it was this very weird thing in my head where I thought to myself, how can I get stronger to then fall back, 10 spaces again? And he said, I get it completely. But the stronger you go into it, the stronger you'll come out of it. And that month leading up to it, I just, that was it. I think that glimmer of hope, but also that fear to know if I'm not strong enough, it's going to be a worse recovery. I just kind of, I got back into the gym very, very quickly, and most days. And then obviously I had my second surgery in February, and it took me straight back again. And the thing was like you said, this wasn't just a physical journey at all. Of course, 100% it was, to get my strength back. The strengthening muscles you can do, a lot easier than strengthening your mind and your mental health.
And that's the real challenge, isn't it? It's about mentally overcoming all the knowledge that you have, because you have the knowledge of pain, you have the knowledge of failure, quote unquote, because of the leg collapsing under you, etc., etc. And actually coming over that hill is probably more difficult in some ways.
Oh, I'm going to say it's 100% more difficult. Yes, like we said, physically, the leg could have buckled at a certain occasions, but knowing that what I was going through in my mind, it can be a very, very lonely place. And it's something that you can have the most incredible support system around you, incredible support system, but it's one of those things where if someone's not going through it or hasn't been through it in a similar way, it can feel quite lonely, because they might not get certain things that, make you cry or make you shout or make you just feel just terrible. And that was definitely one of the hardest things to overcome. I didn't realize how much I'd lost myself completely until I started to see myself again, if that makes sense. That.
And that got you presumably to start to think about other people, and you got back up. But tell me a bit about I Got Back Up and why you set it up.
So I set it up because, ironically at the time, because I couldn't walk and I couldn't do a lot of the other things I like to do, I started to write about things. I started to write about traveling. I started to write about, I rock climb. So I started to, write about rock climbing. I started to write about a few different things. And what happened was while I was writing, I started to speak to a few more people. It started off within the rock climbing community that had gone through their own stories of getting back up, in a sense. And I started to speak to them, and I started to relate to, similar things that they were going through. Even though our stories were so different, I started to relate to a few things they were saying. And I kind of then started to speak to more people. And then basically what happened was I realized that this was a community and a platform that isn't spoken about. A lot of us talk about when you're back up, or not even back up, when you are at a new normal, or you've accepted kind of your situation, or you're kind of in a better place, let's say. And everyone always talks about the beginning. So how it happened, when it happened, why it happened. But no one talks about the middle section, the mental health, the darkness, the roller coaster of ups and downs that you go through every single day. And that is basically why I started to speak to these people more. And then I decided to build I Got Back Up as a platform. So it is a platform where everybody can share their stories and everybody can relate. It's a support, motivational kind of platform. And it's not just for people going through physical, injuries and things like that at all. It's for anyone with a recovery story.
Well, it sounds brilliant. How do people find out more details if they're interested, Talia?
So people can find out. So it's on Instagram at I Got Back Up. We also have a website, so igotbackup.net. And I've also started a podcast myself, which is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. So that basically talks with anyone. Every episode's a different person with their own story. So that's where you can find it, and all those kind of things. It's on social media.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we wish you the best. And how's your health now?
You know what? I'm in a very good place. It's one of those things where it's still a roller coaster, and that's what life is. If every day was going to be perfect, that's not going to be life. But I wake up and I tell myself it's going to be a good day. And you know what? If it's not a good day, some days I succumb to that. And I let myself cry some days still, and I let myself feel it some days, but I'm in a good place. And I think it's all about, telling yourself and believing in yourself and just never giving up.
Well, Talia, listen, thank you ever so much. Really, really lovely to speak to you. I'll just give you that website again, igotbackup.net. That's all one word, igotbackup.net. Talia, thank you for being so inspirational.